Welcome back to The Line. Our final topic this week is the connection between a rise in earthquakes and oil and gas drilling across this country. Hydraulic fracturing, also known as fracking, has gotten a lot of attention recently in Oklahoma, where residents are reporting more and more earthquakes to the point of 2.5 on average a day. And scientists are reporting the same issue here in New Mexico. Now, these man-made earthquakes are being linked to practices of inserting wastewater from drilling back into the underground. And Laura, let me start with you on this because you've been tracking this with a lot of your environmental work over the years. The chickens have come home to roost, it seems to me, on this. If you've gone from a 70-fold increase in one state, regular citizens in Oklahoma, as you read it now, are finally saying, this is insane. It's costing people money. People don't have trust in literally the firmament under their feet. Where does this put the argument now, what's happening in Oklahoma?
I think it's good that more people are understanding that this is something that's been happening for a long time. This is not new. There's nothing new about this. Right. And it's been reported for years since they've used enhanced oil recovery techniques. It's something that we've actually talked about here in New Mexico at the legislature at times when they've considered enhanced oil recovery processes. Right. So that's something that is very real. And what's interesting about it is that it doesn't necessarily pit, oil and gas industry against environmentalists. I mean, I know that's the typical dichotomy you think of. It actually pits oil and gas industry against farmers and ranchers and folks living in some of those communities. So it's a very, it's basically a home, local issue because a lot of those landowners, they're selling their mineral rights, to the oil and gas company. They're then doing what they're doing to, enhanced oil recovery techniques, fracking, all of that. And then it causes problems for them at the surface, causing, property damage, all kinds of destruction. And then there's a high insurance cost. It's a huge problem. And it's one that really hasn't received as much attention as it should have. And I think the Oklahoma example of a lot of people being concerned about this is an important lesson for us.
Dan, is the science convincing to you?
Well, let me start by telling you that those 2.5 a day in Oklahoma, that has nothing to do with this. That's the amount of people leaving New Mexico to get out of here to go work somewhere else. So they're hearing them run right through the state of Oklahoma. I think that this is another one of those issues that I think it's going to take some time. Yes, there's some science out there that says this is causing a problem. There's other folks on the other side that say, no, it's not. I think, again, it becomes a conversation about where do we go? What do we do? We're constantly fighting for energy independence, not only in this country, but globally. And so, we're trying to figure out ways to make that energy independence, to make that leap. I think that, but I do think that when you start putting stuff down in the ground and start doing the things that are happening, you can't say there's not ramifications to it. I mean, when you move oil out, there's a ramification. Maybe it's filled with water, maybe it's filled with something else. I don't know. I do think that there needs to be some more science behind this before we start pointing the fingers at fracking and saying, let's stop the fracking. People have been wanting to stop fracking since they've started. I'll tell you what, there's no bones about it. I lived in the oil and gas area, lived in the oil patch. Sure. But I'll tell you what, I didn't want an oil derrick in my backyard. I don't want them fracking down the street from me.
There you go.
So, but I do think at the end of the day, there's got to be a balance between what we think we want to do with the environment and what we think we want to do with energy independence.
Martha, the USGS has their surveys out. They can almost pinpoint where the fault lines are and almost pinpoint how these situations go from one to the other, and it's like a spider web. It's amazing how they can
And if you look at the New York Times this week, they have the whole chart.
Right.
Oklahoma has 900 projected quakes this year.
Wow.
And 20 years ago, they were having 1 to 3 a year before fracking. Now, I was on the phone with a fracking expert guy this morning who is in Oklahoma in those very oil fields. And it's a lesson for New Mexico because what he says is it's not the actual fracking, it's the injection wells that they're putting that water back into under high pressure.
Right.
They're putting it in dry holes. They're destabilizing what's under there. He says that isn't necessary. It would cost money, but that water could be recycled where they could take it to the next well. It would have two effects. It would not deplete the water reserves of these areas, which is important for New Mexico, and it would stop some of the seismic destabilization. So that could happen. New Mexico could get ahead of the curve. But I tell you, we do face another danger. The city of Denton, Texas has banned fracking in the city limits. Texas is Texas. The state legislature, the Republicans, don't want a city to be able to ban fracking within its own city limits. They're trying to pass a bill that says, no, you cities don't have anything to say about that. We're going to allow fracking in your elementary schoolyard if we want to, and you can't do anything about it. Now, New Mexico could really get ahead of the curve by looking at some of these problems. And as far as the science, Dan, you're right. You and the climate deniers kind of in the same boat here, the fracking deniers. Arkansas declared a moratorium on fracking. The quakes went to 0.
Interesting, interesting. We had in our Raton Basin, which obviously comes over the state lines between Colorado and New Mexico, up right Raton Pass. Colorado had the biggest banger they've had in 40 years, a 5.3 earthquake.
In Trinidad.
In Trinidad. It's amazing to me when you think about it. Should we pay attention to that one thing right there and say, okay, wait a minute, next legislative session, we should just talk about this and try to figure something out? Or do you need something more to signal danger here for us in New Mexico?
No, and I've talked to a number of people in the oil and gas industry, and there is some concern about this.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that. But it's interesting that the U.S. Geological Survey came out with this, and Bill Ellsworth, who was the head of the Geological Society, said, we think society can manage this hazard. We don't have to stop production of oil and gas. I don't think it's a death knell to the the industry, but it is.
Do they want to pay for
Well, yeah,
Right.
but I do think that wherever you stand on this issue, you're going to have to make a little more careful siting, and that's probably going to lead to more regulation. Now, Martha mentioned the Denton situation, and that's true. That the Texas legislature has.
We have our own example here in New Mexico, of course.
Right, but
of a
that's an
municipality.
argument that's happening all
Sure.
in a number of different states, where there's the question of, do you want to have a checkerboard situation where one community has no fracking, another community has plenty, or do you want to have the state or the state oil commission in a given state give that?
What would be
give
your
that
preference?
I would think that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, generally speaking, I would think that if I like the idea of a smaller government. So if a certain community doesn't want to have it, I think that's pretty.
Not that
that's a pretty
anybody
good
asked
argument.
me.
Here we go, but we're going to wrap up, unfortunately.
well,
My fault. That's all the time we have. My fault. My fault, Dan. Stay right there, though. Join us online to see what these line panelists have to say when we put them on the clock here to talk about other issues in the news this week. I'm Gene Grant. As always, we appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged, and we'll see you next week in Focus.